Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to talk about some old school Everlast boxing gloves. So stay tuned. Hey guys, Carlo here. Today I wanted to go over the history and backstory on these old school Everlast boxing gloves. But before I do that, I want to give a big shout out to my friend David Fraijo, who I met while training at Dan's gym in Mesa, Arizona. Not only does he train there, but he's also an avid collector of rare, hard to find boxing gloves like the ones that you see here. And he was nice enough to let me borrow these two particular models, the 1312 as well as the 1316 model. And he also said that he was okay with me using these in training. Out of respect for David, I only use these each probably 2 to 3 rounds, just to kind of get an impression on how these gloves felt as well as how they performed. Obviously these gloves are no longer made and are very rare, so out of respect for him, I just wanted to make sure I preserve them and take good care of them. So I have these two models, and I believe David also purchased these on eBay. So if you're looking for hard to find vintage equipment that's no longer made, your best bet is usually eBay. You may look out on some kind of classified ads, whether it's Facebook or other social media, but typically eBay is where you can usually score a good deal if you look at the right time. And that's what I would typically recommend. And you'll notice that it's usually some of the same sellers on eBay that usually have the vintage equipment that they're selling. So just kind of keep your eye out and you may be able to score a good deal. So you got these two models. I also recently purchased the 1410 glove model like I have here on eBay as well. It's from a seller that I purchased from before. I believe he goes by Ray and a couple of numbers after that username, but I got these on eBay as well just recently. And I believe this particular model, the 1410, came out around the same time or the same era as the 1312. You can tell that the logo is the same as well as the patch on the back, which we'll discuss here as well. So we have 3 models total, all within kind of a similar era. But what's important to know about these gloves before we actually talk about these gloves in particular, to kind of give you guys a timeline on when these gloves came out with Everlast. So if you guys watched my old video I review on the John Gollum boxing glove, Everlast was founded back in 1910 in the Bronx, New York by Jacob Gollum. And then there's basically the lineage of his family were all leather artisans, glove makers that had made them over decades for Everlast in the Bronx, New York. So fast forward to basically the late 90s, early 2000s, basically what had happened was in about 1999 and 2000. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick and tell you guys here. Get this real quick. So basically, at the end of 99, Everlast updated its professional boxing glove line. This model, the 13XX, which would be like a 1312, 1314, depending on the weight of the glove. So 13 was the model designation. The last 2 digits was the actual weight of the glove. So for this example, these are the 1312s. It's the 1300 series glove at 12 ounces, hence the 1312. So the model, the 1312, replaced the 2400 series. So if you had a 2410, a 2412, it would be basically the 2400 series, a 12 ounce glove. Training glove. Like all previous professional glove models, Everlast's new professional glove line was handmade in their Bronx, New York factory. The Bronx, New York factory gloves are these right here. So these two were made here in the United States in Bronx, New York. And what indicates that is the patch on the back of the wrist will actually say Bronx, New York right here at the bottom of the patch. And it's the same with this glove as well. I know it's really faded and worn out, but it also says right here, Bronx, New York. And this is where these gloves were manufactured at the time. There's no actual labels on the inside here, but both of these gloves were made here in the United States from in that era. So basically from 1999 to 2003. So essentially about 25 years ago on average. The new fight and training glove models were similar, but featured subtle styling differences. In 2003, with the closure of Everlast Bronx factory and the move to offshore production, China, Pakistan, And the styling differences on the 1300 series model were eliminated. Specifically, the 1300 series training glove was no longer made with a contrasting inside thumb color, like right here. And the E logo on the back of the glove was replaced with the same box-shaped Everlast logo used on the 1000 or 1000 series fight glove. So these two gloves was proceeded with this glove. So this is the glove that was made after the previous model was discontinued. This is going to be the 1300 series. This is a 16-ounce glove. The 2003 updated Everlast cuff tag read New York, New York instead of Bronx, New York. So on this tag, you'll notice that it does not say Bronx, New York anymore. It says New York, New York. The other thing to note about this particular glove is that on the inside there is a tag right here, and on the back side of the tag, if I can pull it up, it's kind of wrinkled in there. These gloves are made in China, and it's hard to see it, but these gloves are indeed made in China. They're a full leather glove, and they are surprisingly made in China. So that explains, once they moved their Bronx, New York factory that were making these, they went offshore and made this particular model in China. There's definitely a huge difference in the type of leather that's used, not necessarily, I would say, quality wise, but just the way it feels. The glove mold is definitely different. You know, this one uses more of a solid, like layered foam model, where this one uses foam as well as horsehair, and is just definitely a little bit different in shape. Sizing wise, profile wise, you can see that the 16 is more compact because this is a 12-ounce glove. So you can see just from the size alone that the one that was made in the Bronx compared to the one that's made in China, size-wise, it's pretty much the same. So it kind of makes me curious on how the 16 ounces in this Bronx-made version, how they were size-wise compared to these 16-ounce models. So this is now made in China. I would assume that this glove was probably made anywhere between maybe like 2003 to 2007. And then in 2007 is when Everlast was bought out. Let me go back to my history book here so I don't get it wrong. So basically it was bought out in 2007 by Sports Direct. And that is basically the history on that. And Sports Direct is now considered to be the Frasers Group. And Frasers Group, Sports Direct, is a British company. So essentially Everlast is now owned by a UK group and is basically a subsidiary of Frasers Group. So Frasers Group is like the parent company, and Everlast is underneath that. So, and they're owned by a UK brand. And then after 2007, that's when you started to see the shift with a lot of Everlast equipment. You know, you saw some of the original old school Protex line, and then, you know, fast forward to now, you know, you have this whole different era of Everlast. So the Everlast that we know now is completely different than the Everlast of yesteryear, especially when it comes to manufacturing, the styles and whatnot. Now, out of the three gloves, this one right here is by far my favorite. It has full genuine leather on the glove. It has that old school diagonal tilted Everlast logo. It has that Bronx, New York patch on the back and cloth 12-ounce weight tag. It has, I'd say, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of medium density padding on the back of the wrist. A nice nylon satin liner or polyester satin liner. I'd say about 1/2 inch of firm foam on the inside of the wrist. Double stitching, a really nice large firm grip bar, ventilated holes on the thumb as well as above the grip bar. Real beautiful parallel thumb, attached thumb as well. And this one has my favorite style of padding, which is horsehair and foam. Very soft, very broken in, and this is one of those kind of gloves you probably wouldn't want to use in sparring, at least if you're the one getting punched by these. So, but when you slide your hand into the glove, man, they feel amazing. Extremely comfortable, extremely broken in. I mean, I can open and close my palm with zero resistance. They feel amazing. The thumb is perfect. The piping around the fat part of my thumb is in perfect position. The grip bar is great. You can really feel that. And this is the type of glove, I mean, the wrist support, you can see just snug, it's nice and snug around my wrist and my forearm. This is the kind of glove that just makes me realize and just kind of reminds me that sometimes you really don't have to reinvent the wheel to have a really great product, right? This is one of those gloves that, man, if this is what I foresee how the MX line of Everlast should be like. You know, look at that beautiful flat punch surface. Just an amazing glove overall, and pretty sad that, you know, they went away from this. This is a glove that I think is amazing, and I remember seeing these gloves back in like in 2000, 2001 being sold, and if you ever had like the old Everlast catalogs, you can actually subscribe and get them in the mail. They would send you a catalog with all their equipment, and these were gloves that were in those catalogs at the time. So, you know, if you have a pair of these, man, definitely hold on to them because these are amazing gloves. And again, you know, I wish they would go back to something like this. So this is probably one of my favorites of that era. This glove was probably made anywhere between 99 to 2003 here in the United States. Next, we have the 1410. This is a 10-ounce glove of the 1400 series. This is more of like a bag glove. From the same era, made in Bronx, New York. The leather on here is very nice. It's slightly different. This has more of like a Napa leather feel to it. It's definitely more grainier than the other model here, which is more smooth in terms of the texture of leather. And definitely has more of a grainier texture. It has the same E logo, the Everlast patch. You do have that Velcro that wraps all the way around. It's also the 1410 with a nice large grip bar, and you also have that hole on the palm. And a lot of times they had that hole on the old school style bag gloves or bag mitts to give one, ventilation, but it also gave a little bit of flexibility over the palm to be able to open and close your hand, and it allows the palm to stretch out a little bit more. Ventilated holes right here on the inner thumb, a couple right above the grip bar, and you also have a nylon attached thumb on this particular model. The Velcro strap was dually reinforced on the outside edge as well as the inside, and you also have that same polyester nylon liner on the inside. You can tell this glove has been used quite a few times, but considering that this glove is probably around 25 years old, you can see there's a little bit of fading on the thumb there. It's pretty good shape considering you know, how old these gloves are. Wrist support, not really there. You know, it's a pretty floppy glove, but comfort-wise, they feel amazing. Real nice and compact. They're 10 ounce. Again, just you can open and close your hand. Very similar thumb. That's like the other 1400 series model where you could pull your, or 1300, excuse me, where you could pull your thumb in. And finger compartment feels amazing. This one uses a more denser layered foam, so it's definitely not like the punter style horsehair glove. But again, I mean, just has like an excellent feel. A lot of these old school vintage gloves, you could tell they really put an emphasis on that impact zone right there when you're landing your punches. Really nice and flat, but again, an amazing glove, and wish something like this would come out from Everlast now. Just kind of that old school. Even if they do like an anniversary throwback release, that would be awesome, and have them made exactly the same like how they used to. But again, these are awesome gloves. So these are going to be the 1410 from that same era as the 1312s. Now onto the 1316 model. This is a model, again, that was probably made anywhere between 2003 to 2007, I would assume. This was made in China. The leather on here has a nice feel to it, nice and thick. I'd say it has kind of a smooth to grainy texture. So in terms of the texture of the glove, it feels really good. And you'll have that, now you have that square Everlast logo on the back with the similar patch. The only difference is this one says New York, New York instead of Bronx, New York. These are 16 ounces. You know, the back of the wrist, you have about an inch of medium density foam, polyester satin liner on the inside. I'd say about half an inch of firm foam on the inside on both sides. Ventilated holes on the thumb as well as above the grip bar. Grip bar in here I'd say is medium in size. It's a little bit more of a pointed grip bar rather than it being rounded. You have double stitching and you have white laces that are long. Sliding your hand to the glove, the liner feels really good. Hand compartment actually feels really nice. This glove is definitely stiffer, and that has to do with the type of foam that's used in this glove. This glove foam I believe is a layered foam style, and it's very dense. So compared to the other models, this one's much more dense. I would assume that this is going to be better for, you know, sparring, if you're looking for something a little bit more protective. I'm not a fan of the finger compartment. I feel like the finger compartment became more shallow, and it's, you know, a little bit harder to open and close your hand with this glove. Also, the piping right here is very, very tight around the fat part of my thumb. You can actually see my thumb kind of protruding out. The positioning is good of the thumb as far as it being pulled in, but the thumb tip is also a little bit on the shallow side. So when I pull down, you can see it kind of pulls down on this tip. Compared to the other model, the 1312, I'll slide that on just to kind of give you guys a comparison. It kind of keeps that thumb from pulling down. So you can see just the difference. And you can also see the width with the 1312 compared to this one right here, and how much, a little bit more accommodated it is width-wise in that finger compartment, where this one's a little bit more rounded off, and I feel like my fingers crowd a little bit more. Wrist support feels really good, but in terms of comfort, this one, the 1312 blows this model away easily. So that's where they went with this particular model, the 1316 or the 1300 series. And then after that, you know, Everlast kind of went through these models, discontinued them, and evolved to what we have today. Now we have the MX series, the Elites, the new Protex, Power Locks. I mean, you name it. There's so many different glove models out there. So, you know, I feel once Everlast got bought out by Fraser's group, Sports Direct, that's when you start to really see kind of the corporate portion come into play, where Everlast was more of a, I wouldn't necessarily say like a mom and pop brand, but it was a smaller brand, right? And once you go bigger, oftentimes that's when you start seeing a lot of changes, for better or for worse. And I think that it would be nice that we still have gloves like this made by Everlast. And I just feel like this is such a big part of their history in terms of the name Everlast and the kind of quality equipment they made back in those days. And hopefully they can kind of go back to making gear like this once again, particularly this model, the 1312, because these gloves should not be forgotten. I think they're amazing gloves. And I asked David actually if he would let me buy these off of him, and he actually said no. And I don't blame him, because these are amazing gloves, you know, and I really want these. So I'm gonna be keeping an eye out for my own pair of these. If you guys have a pair that you want to sell, hit me up, send me an email, csquaredboxing@gmail.com. But if you have any of this 1300 series that were made in the Bronx, New York, these are amazing gloves, and you know, hopefully I can score a pair myself. So if you guys have any questions or comments, you guys know what to do. Put them down below in the comments box. And if you guys are able to find any of these vintage Everlast gloves, you know, make sure you comment on that as well. You know, put a link down below. Maybe one of us that are watching this video can go ahead and get ourselves a pair and really enjoy these vintage old school gloves. I'll see you guys later. Peace.